Hey guys, welcome to Beyond the Blackboard. In this episode, we're talking about a topic that's pretty close to my heart, which is what it feels like to not fit in at school. And it's an incredibly powerful feeling not fitting in and not being part of the group. And it's definitely something that I felt throughout my entire time at school, at secondary school, at least between the ages of 13 and 18. I never really found my proper tribe, and it made it really difficult. It made school really tough. That I really wanted lots of friends, or even some friends, but I didn't seem to have that many. So this is a bit of amusing now, 10 years later after that experience, what it's like now to look back on that, having come out the other side of it. And I am having an open discussion today with a trained counsellor called Joe, who's in the previous episode as well. And we, in this episode, back and forth about our own experiences from school and hopefully give some practical advice about what to do if you do feel left out. And maybe you feel left out like I did most of the time, and sometimes you bury yourself in work to get away from that feeling. Maybe it's only sometimes you feel excluded. Maybe you don't feel excluded at all. Maybe you're one of the popular kids. In that case, congratulations. But I think it's a really important topic to reflect on, knowing that lots of people feel left out in especially a school environment. And so yeah, I hope you get some interesting stuff out of it. It's probably about a 20-minute conversation. And I'll put some kind of timestamps in the bottom here. And if you want weekly videos coming out on study skills, getting into university, and generally crafting you towards your future, please do hit that subscribe button and give this video a cheeky like to get it out there. All right, here we go. Slight change of subject, but in terms, I'm really interested in what if people feel at secondary school or whatever don't feel like they fit in with their peer group, because this is something that I'm interested in, because when I was at school, I certainly didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't have very many friends until I was about 17, even though I desperately wanted them, being like quite extrovert and drawing energy from other people's company, but didn't really have that. I didn't really get invited to parties. I didn't really feel kind of a part of the culture of the school that I was in. So I kind of buried myself.
Fine, sorry.
As a plane. What
Right.
for students who feel like that? Do you have any? It was very stressful. So, and any thoughts? Any kind of thoughts on that?
Personally, for me, I would call myself, when I was at school, a floater. Such a great term. But I never felt, and it's a shame because I'm sure that I did to certain groups, but I never felt that I properly fitted in. But if you think about it, certainly for those that are at high school, is that there aren't many different groups. There aren't many different groups. However, if you go to college, or if you go to a sixth form that is different from your school, you just get to meet new people. And I feel that that's when I really started to enjoy friendships and really started to make good friends, because you're not stuck. And let's face it, I'll never forget on my last day at school, oh, let's stay in touch. At 36 years old, I have one person that I'm in touch with from school. But I'd never have believed it if anybody said that to me on my school days. But I think just giving that person the hope that actually when you do go on to college, sixth form, uni, an apprenticeship, that you're going to get to meet new people. And as we grow, we outgrow people, we outgrow our friends, so it's just realising that if you don't fit in now, that's okay. But how exciting it is going to be when you do fit in and you do find your friends that have got the same hobbies and same passions that you have. it will just be amazing. So what it is now isn't necessarily down to that person, you know, I can't make friends, or I can't keep my friends, or I've got no sense of belonging. That's just right now. You know, imagine when you do get older and you go on your girly holiday or your lad's holiday, like when you find those people, they will be gold dust.
Totally. Yeah. And I think it's just I think it's important to point out that, you know, school is an artificial environment. It's a highly artificial environment where you are kind of, you're right, there are kind of separate groups, and, you know, actually at the age of a teenage age, finding your place is kind of what you're trying to do. And certainly what I was trying to do, you're trying to find your tribe. And there's only like, what, let's say there was 120 people in my year. So I didn't, and tribes kind of form very specifically and sometimes, you know, cliquely, so can leave people feeling left out once those tribes are formed and you're not part of one really. And maybe you've never been part of one previously. It can leave you feeling, you know, out in the sticks. And I think you're absolutely right. Having the realization, and you maybe won't have this until, maybe you will find your tribe at school, maybe you won't, but just knowing that there are much more tribes after school that exist, that you will find, if you want to, you know, whether that's at university or apprenticeship or workplace or just general life, going about your life. You will find that tribe. There's an infinite amount of different tribes out there, whereas there's only maybe 7 at your school. You've got like
the item, the music,
exactly,
the naughty ones, the goody ones,
the smart ones, exactly, the cool ones. And if you're not one of those, then,
and I don't know about you, Ram, but I always wanted to be part of the cool ones.
Of course. And so much. I still do, and they never accepted me.
I kind of, because I was a floater,
yes,
kind of did a little bit, but they weren't very nice.
No, they weren't, were they?
And actually, I think that was my biggest disappointment, is that when I got there and I was kind of spending lunchtimes, I was thinking, you're really not that nice to people sometimes.
But I still really wanted to be.
I still really want to be here
with them.
You know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, though, isn't it?
It is.
You know, I wish I could go back and live my teens knowing what I know now.
Me, I've thought this exact thing.
I would love it.
I feel like I'd nail it, because
I would tell people what I think. I wouldn't care about upsetting people as much. I would. When I got hit once, I would have hit them back. Like, I would have gone for it.
Because you know, you start to know yourself better as an adult. Every year I feel like I know myself better. And so you don't, if the cool kid, I remember once, one of the cool kids, I sat next to him in like next to them and the other cool kids at dinner. It was like classic, it was from a movie. It was so cliche. And then when I sat next to them in the dinner hall, they, like, one of them turned around and said, "Why are you sitting here?" And I was literally like, and then just moved. And I was so gutted. I was 16 years old and just so mortified. And then I felt like I'd done something wrong. And then now if my, you know, I'm 28, if my 28-year-old head went back into my 16-year-old body, I'd just be like, seriously? Like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to enjoy my meal. Thank you very much, mister. So it doesn't take away how tough it is at the time. I don't want to.
And going on from it, I know we laugh about it, but I know my sense of self-worth was so low at school.
Yeah.
And when you don't have that, when your vibe doesn't attract the right crowd, I think what makes it harder is actually realizing that, hang on a minute, no, I am good enough. I just haven't found my tribe yet, you know, and to stay real to your vibe. But I think it's really hard, because it is very much, you know, when we were that age, you know, I would have done anything to fit in. You know, I cracked a little bit under peer pressure a couple of times because, you know, but actually it's just, my friend always gave me this advice, always stay true to yourself. So always stay true to who you are as a person and to yourself. And I think that because our mind, our critical will really get hold of us, and we can't do that. We're not clever enough. We're not worth it enough. You know, we're thick. We're not going to pass. This critic is just nasty. It's a bully to ourselves sometimes. And that's what's not helped when we hang around with people that don't make us feel good or don't inspire us. And I think sometimes one of my top tips is you always hang around with people that lift you and inspire you, rather than bring you down thinking that you're not good enough. Because we've all got something to contribute towards in this life, all of us. And it's just finding that sense of purpose and finding out, keep your eye on your why is what I say. You know, what's your purpose? What do you want to achieve? Why are you here? You know, if you was to leave this world, what do you want to leave? What's your legacy want to be? And to try and focus on that. And then you'll realise as you get older that the people that were in your life that maybe weren't as kind or didn't make you feel as if you fitted in, actually they weren't that important all along. So but it's hard to tell people that, and they're there.
It's really hard to tell people that, and exactly, and as I say, we're laughing about it now because it was a long time ago, but it's incredibly, it made me completely miserable at times, and so it's our laughter isn't to kind of take away from the fact that is an absolutely valid real thing to if it makes you feel awful, we've been there, you know, and lots of people have in some sense.
Yeah, and if we kind of go from laughing at ourselves, laughing at our past selves, to really turning it around. Tell me how painful it was when you didn't fit in.
At the time?
Yeah,
it was just like, so describing a feeling, it was so going back to that moment when the cool kid said, why are you sitting with us? I just felt like my stomach completely drop. I just wanted to I just went directly back to my room and didn't really feel like coming out, and my self-confidence was so low, and it made me kind of question, you know, who I was, what was wrong with me, to make him do that. And there must be something, it must be something to do with me, because this is happening regularly, so I must be the thing that's wrong, is really what the place I was coming from, which made me just feel like quite rubbish about myself the whole time, and try and shrink. I shrunk myself, and tried to stay out of the limelight, because I didn't feel like, you know, I felt like putting myself out there would lead me feeling this way again. So it was very, very tough at the time. Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest thing, is just trying to make our young people realise that they'll get there. They will find those right people that make them feel valued and loved and respected and worthy. And if you are one of those young people that have found your friends that make you feel that, then can I just remind you that you're really, really lucky. You are really lucky, and to treasure those friends, because there's a lot of us that, you know, go on throughout high school, college, sixth form, maybe into uni, until we find that sense of belonging.
Totally.
That makes us feel complete.
And also just if you are a cool kid watching this, or it's like, I don't know, like if you have found your place, and because I know some people do, as you say, find their place, look out for those guys who might not have found their place, and perhaps you know, be sensitive to that feeling that they might have, that you might not be able to. Maybe you haven't had that feeling. Maybe you have in some small way, but just be aware that the people who aren't fitting in so well probably feel like this the majority of the time, judging from my experience at school. So just like look out for them, because actually when anyone was, you know, especially if they, especially if they were kind of accepted into a tribe or a group and they were nice. Even a kind word can really like just boost you and just make that person's day. So be aware of that as well, I would.
And I also think I normally go to the prom. So I get my year 11s and in particular my year 11s, not my year 13s, but get my year 11s through it, and then I go to their prom. And I'll never forget that there was this, let's call them the cool kid. And I was really proud of this cool kid because they started to do revision for their mocks early. And what I loved about this young lad is that he didn't want to tell anybody that he didn't want to go out because he wanted to revise. And he didn't tell anybody for quite a few weeks. And it wasn't until we were in our counselling session, I was like, just tell them, be proud. Anyway, he told them that, I'm sorry, I'm not coming out on this night of the week because I'm doing revision. Anyway, at this particular prom, this young lad come up to me and he said, you'll never guess what, Jo, somebody's just told me that this person, their friend, had started revising, all because this cool kid had started and was proud enough to say that they'd started. And this young lady had told this lad, that if it wasn't for you, I would never have started revising as early as I did. So thank you. And I just thought to myself, we've got this, I'll revise, around my social life. When actually sometimes your future self will thank you for the effort that you put in. Not even if you don't get the right grades, but to know that you tried. And actually sometimes in life, we just need to become comfortable with that feeling that actually, do you know what? I tried. And with my GCSE results, I'll never forget, I wasn't really in a great place at the time. And my mum went and got my GCSE grades and brought them home. And I remember opening them up and crying. And my granddad, who lived with us, he came in and he said, what's the matter? And I said, I didn't do very well. And he goes, and he was Scottish, bless him. So a very broad accent. And he put his finger in my face and he's like, did you try? And I was like, well, yeah. And he goes, no. He goes, did you try? He says, I know that you need to have a life and you need to go out, but did you try? And I was like, well, yeah. And he goes, it's all you can do. If you know in life that you've tried, then you have to become comfortable with that feeling. And I think when it comes to revision, I just never want any of my school kids or any of my subscribers on my channel or watchers to ever regret the fact that they didn't try, because that makes it harder. And knowing that when you get your exam results back, knowing that you tried, and yeah, you still need to go out and socialise with your mates, and you need to have movie nights, and you need to chill. I'm not asking you to revise all the time, but just to live your life and try. You just have to find comfort in that. Does that make sense?
Totally. And I think it's more difficult than said, because trying is opening yourself. If you start trying for something and then fail, it hurts even more. So you are opening. Be aware that you're opening yourself up to. You might not want to try because you're scared that there's that failure, that feeling of failure at the end of it. But just get away from that feeling.
And I think that's sometimes when we can be trapped by perfectionism. So I did one of those, a video on that actually, because I think sometimes we need to be aware if being a perfectionist is trapping us in life. And sometimes it does, because don't forget, we've got students that will be watching this that will be, giving their everything, revising for hours of an evening and almost burning the candle at, both ends, compared to our other students that really, really want to get going, but just don't know where to start or don't know how to get going or to try. So it is just trying to find that balance. But all I'm asking for is for you to, when you do, like you said, around going to your exam, just knowing that actually I've tried, I've given it my all, and now I'm just going to ground myself, breathe, and try and do the best that I can do.
And whatever will be, will be.
Yeah, and mocks are mocks. I think, because these are, we're going to air these videos now. mocks are a perfect opportunity for your teachers to see as a class what you need to do as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily, you know, mocks aren't all about the student. You know, teachers need to know, you know, the faculty leaders, they need to know, wow, these students didn't do very well in this topic in science. Okay, we need to focus on that as well. Mm-hmm. So it helps the teachers as well. Would you agree with me there, Ran?
Totally. Yeah, exactly.
About the teachers as well.
Yeah.
And nothing is ordinary right now. So I think that as well, something that we need to just appreciate in a sense, and you know, just let us know that sitting GCSEs, A levels, BTECs, whatever exams it might be, it's pretty unusual right now.
Totally. Well, I think that's a good place to finish off the conversation. That's great. I think we covered so much great ground. I really enjoyed that.
Giggle as well. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent.